world. This is the News Connection, where you get in-depth analysis on matters health, art and culture, economics and sport. But first, let's take a look at our news headlines. Police in Nairobi are holding a high-ranking ambassador over allegations of attempting to extort an unknown amount of money from Teacher Service Commission Chief Executive Nancy Macharia. Mr. Hilary Ngodi Chego, who until September this year was Kenya's ambassador to Russia, was arrested on Tuesday evening alongside other suspects, Mr. James Dirango Kagesha and David Moniki Maluki. In other news, Health Cabinet Secretary Cecily Kariuki has lifted the ban on post-abortion care services by Maristops Kenya and ordered its full compliance with the relevant laws. In a statement on Thursday, Mrs. Kariuki directed the company to observe all laws that cover its work, as stated in the Article 26(4) of the Constitution. The law permits abortions only in the case of emergencies and where the life or health of the woman is in danger. And lastly, economic experts have warned that taxes and levies coupled with uncertainty over Kenya's engagement with the International Monetary Fund will likely hurt the creation of new job opportunities. The Finance Act of 2018 comes with several new taxes and levies aimed at growing government revenue and reducing the budget deficit, as demanded by the International Monetary Fund. And our focus today is on the 8% VAT tax on fuel. This is because fuel runs our economy, and therefore taxing it in order to raise the 9.6 billion revenue is going to have a ripple effect on every aspect of Kenyan lives. You can join the conversation using the Twitter handle at Jonah Karanja and using the hashtag #TheNewsConnection. A reaction from Pamela Wanjiro, who says that taxing petroleum products will raise the cost of production and hence increase of prices of basic commodities. As you all know, a lot of Kenyans are already feeling overwhelmed by the cost of living. This is from the VAT tax on fuel. Let's get more from Olympia Cherono in Nairobi.
A well-defined economy means that every citizen has the ability to afford the basic necessities. However, this has not been the case in Kenya of late, especially after the 8% increment on fuel. This has left a blow to small-scale traders such as Rose narrates.
High taxation on small traders is that the cost of production of many items goes high, hence the companies price their items at a higher price. Therefore, the small traders will need high financial muscles in order to buy those goods because they are priced highly, and this forces us maybe to borrow the cash from Shylocks, who charges a lot of interest, and we get low profit margins.
The fuel taxation has led to outcry from low-income earners, majority of whom depend on their small-scale kiosks, as the cost of transportation is affecting the front margin, as Mrs. Mbogwa echoes.
Mimi kama mfanyibiashara mdogo, kusema ukweli ni ya kwamba hiyo taksi iliyoongezewa imetuaffect sana hata kwa biashara zetu. Kwa sababu saa hii transport ambaye nilikuwa nikiendea hizi vitu avocado, nyanya, bei walipandisha kwa ajili ya tax. Na hata ukienda kwa soko unakuta hizi vitu tunavyoendea, nyanya, kitunguu, hizi vitu dogo dogo, unakuta hata hizo bei yake imepanda kwa sababu ya hiyo taksi. Kwa hivyo kwangu mimi naonelea ya kwamba serikali haikutujali wakati ilikuwa inaongezea hiyo taksi kwetu kama wafanyabiashara wadogo.
I want to get more now from TNC's Olympia Cherono. So Olympia, what is the impact of fuel taxation so far?
The recent increase in tax has led to a rapid increase in the price of commodities, and therefore once again the common mananchi has to dig into their pockets in order to afford these basic commodities. Jonah, this comes as a burden to many Kenyans, putting in mind that many of them live below the poverty line.
And Olympia, is there any hopes for Kenyans?
As for now, Kenyans have to bear with the situation. Back to you, Jonah.
Well, thank you very much. A reaction as well from J. Ulysses, who tweets that taxing fuel products equates to raising the cost of basic commodities in Kenya. And ladies and gentlemen, let's now hear from our opinion leaders, Mr. Isaac Wetosi, an economist, and Richard Osano, an economist. So Isaac, what is the effect of the VAT on fuel?
You know, in Kenya, we are suffering from a disease we call the Dutch disease. I've introduced this word for the meaning and purposeful words because inflation and that's 8%, from 8 to 16%. Kenya is taxing everything. Like you go to communication, they are taxing everything. Now, the locals or those youth who are coming up with ideas to do some businesses, you start a kiosk, they come to take some tax. How will you maintain this? So I think top government people should also come down so that they can also be taxed to equalize the margin between the low class and the high class, because these people who are at the low ground, they are trying to get up so that they can also better a country to be at the middle class than having many more people who are at low ground than even the upper ground. I think that's the case.
And on to you, Mr. Richard. What should the government do to raise revenue other than taxing fuel and also other basic commodities?
First of all, Mr. Jonah, I think the government can promote domestic industries, for example, like offering subsidies to encourage their production. Secondly, we can also do investments. If we decide to go in investments, it means the government should create a conducive environment whereby investors will come and invest in our country. We can also focus on tourism sector, for example. When the government provides a conducive environment where tourists come, we are able to earn foreign exchange. And out of this foreign exchange, part of it can be spent can cater for a chunk of it can be spent so that it can cater for the high debt that is accruing to us.
Mr. Richard, what is the impact of fuel taxation in Kenya?
First of all, Mr. John, I think the government can promote domestic industries, for example, like offering subsidies to encourage their production. Secondly, we can also do investments. If we decide to go in investments, it means the government should create a conducive environment whereby investors will come and invest in our country. We can also focus on tourism sector, for example. When the government provides a conducive environment where tourists come, we are able to earn foreign exchange. And out of this foreign exchange, part of it can be spent can cater for a chunk of it can be spent so that it can cater for the high debt that is accruing to us.
On to Mr. Isaac again. The Chinese have been accused of marginalizing Kenyans in terms of local jobs. Is this true?
One, I will blame the government of Kenya because of the system of education we are having. Because how can we teach engineers and they can't even construct a road? Number two, how can we have doctors who can even not treat our people? Because our people are going to China, going to other countries. I'll come back to your point. Introduction of Chinese in our country, it is so marginalized because when you go to even Siokimau just next here, you will get some Chinese people sweeping in the ground instead of just employing mere Kenyans, those low-class people, to help curb that. And so I think it is not good for them to employ such people. Instead, they should use the locals. Thank you.
Thanks very much, gentlemen, for gracing the show. A reaction from Cynthia Kabiru, who tweets that the VAT on fuel will affect a lot of small business communities. Okay, in my opinion, I feel that the government's move to place an 8% taxation on fuel in a bid to, raise the 9.6 billion in revenues was wrong. These revenues, mind you, are used to pay the Chinese debt, which apparently is overwhelming the country. But now the question is, who brought the loans? I think the loans were taken by our leaders, some of whom are going to retire from politics, go to their homes, and leave poor Kenyans suffering. And that, ladies and gentlemen, wraps up our economy segment today. I have been your host, Jonah Karanja. Up until next time, keep it News Connection.